אנחנו נלמד מתוך שיעור תעש עם הרבש, נקרא מתוך
We will read from tests with the Rabash. We will read from the study of the 10 Sefirot, part 5, chapter 13, item 35.
ולפני כן נקרא יחד בתלמוד 10 הספירות כרך ב'.
And before that, we'll sing a song. Before we go to the lesson, we'll read the source. Item 35.
מציאות מתי ולא מתי. צריך לבאר.
The reality of mati and not mati needs to be thoroughly clarified.
מתחיל האור לבוא בכתר.
It is said that the light at first starts coming from Keter, and all the first 9 lights are included in it. And afterwards it becomes not mati again, not expanding, as it came back and returned from the light that comes to the Keter. But the other 9 lights remained in the Keter because the Keter has the power to withstand them. And then, because it is not mati in the Keter extends the 9 lights to Chokhmah face to face and places them in Chokhmah. At that time, Chokhmah turns her interior after receiving the 9 lights and shines to Binah face to face. It is only illumination, but she still does not give her the 7 lights.
Page 318, starting with not moti. What does it say here? The light came out and returned once more. Which is the Keter? Exits there once more. Why not expanding? Which Keter do we need to explain here? The Partzuf of Ta'amim tastes. It is because the screen of phase 4 of the male was refined to phase 3 through the clash. The screen of phase 3 of the female to phase 2. Hence, the 2 levels of male and female that were in the vessel of Keter departed, and this is the meaning of his words. The light that reaches Keter exits there once more. This matter of the refinement that happened in the male and the female of Keter is also because of the clash and the striking of the surrounding light and inner light, as we see in the first expansion. In Parsuf Galgalta, the same thing is seen here in Parsuf of Ab. So what is the meaning of not expanding in Keter? That the Parsuf of Te'amim, of tastes in Parsuf Ab, was refined. After that, the 9 other lights remain in Keter, because Keter has the power to sustain them. What remained in the simple reading? The light of Keter departed, and this remained and did not depart. Let us see what he explains. As we always learn, no remnants are left. If they departed completely. So what is the meaning of remained? He explains. It means that the above coarseness of phase 2 remains in it, from which he can still receive something. Not that a light remained, rather what remained, a screen remained. Light must always be a new phase. It means that what is written, the 9 other lights remain in Keter. It means that the above coarseness of phase 2 remains in it, where the coupling that emerges in this coarseness draws the level of Bina, and Bina contains within it always the upper phase. the level of Anpin and Malchut. We're also speaking of coarseness, which are 8 lights. Phase 3 of the male of Keter also remained. Thus, there are 9 lights in the vessel of Keter that remain after the refinement of her own phase. So then, what is the meaning of remained? Coarseness remained in it, which are 8 lights. But the upper phase includes what is below it. It turns out that afterward, when I say that it's not expanding, it is the same thing as well. It departed and a new coupling was made. Here it is written that the screen was refined at every place from screen of phase 4 to phase 3, and phase 4 to phase 3 was refined. And since everything is included of 4 phases, therefore the refinement came out all at once, and they divide into tastes, tamim, and nekudot, dots. This is what is written here. Next, look above. Not expanding in the Keter, the light to it, meaning it departed. Keter extends the 9 lights to Chokhmah, face to face, and gave them to Chokhmah. What is written here? It retained the vessel of Keter and Chokhmah below, and this it gives to Chokhmah. And then Chokhmah, after it received, turned her anterior when, after receiving the 9 lights from Keter, it shines to Bina face to face. It is only illumination, but she still does not give her the 7 lights, only the illumination alone. So what is written here? Learn first, then ask. You don't yet know what is written. That is, after not expanding was made in Keter, and what remained in Keter from Chokhmah below, and this it gave to Chokhmah. How did it give to Chokhmah? Face to face. And afterwards from Chokhmah, it gives, since after receiving the 9 lights and shines also face to face to Bina, only illumination alone. So the 7 lights she does not give her.
So we have to understand what is illumination on its own. What doesn't she give her? What Keter did give Chokhmah. So the expansion in Keter, meaning that it was refined, the Parzuf of Tamim, the Keter extends the 9 lights of Chokhmah face to face. So what's the calculation? 9 lights from Chokhmah and below. You look. You already know that these vessels of the second expansion are the same emptied vessels that remained after the first expansion. Just have to add that except for having its own vessels, if we are discussing the empty vessels that remained in Parzuf Galgalta, Parzuf Av should fill them. So then he says, also the order of the making of these vessels has been explained in the Ari's words above. Here the intention was formulated, the recognition of the vessels. Remember this. First, Malchut was made. How was that vessel made? Since she was the first to be emptied of her light. Phase 4 refined, which was the degree of Tamim. Afterwards, when the vessel of Zeranpin was emptied from its light, the vessel, the recognition of the vessel of Zeranpin was made. Then when the vessel of Binah was emptied, the vessel of Binah was made, etc. The reason for this is that the vessels were made of the coarse light from reflected light. That remains below, while the screen refined, which did not rise and depart with the direct light. The direct light, the abundance departs, and then the reflected light remains below. Which reflected light? So we have to say that the light that overcame, that remained below. Now it doesn't have the forces. If it had the forces, it wouldn't depart. Hence, each and every vessel was made, every recognition of the vessel, with the departure of the light from within it. Again, the reason for this is that the vessels were made of the coarse light that remained below, because before the light remained below, it still remained above and didn't depart yet. There was still no recognition of the vessel. Just the light that departs and remains is considered a vessel. Hence, each and every vessel was made with the departure of the light from it. Since then, the coarse light remained below, after it departed above. What is reflected light? Doesn't it remain below? The legs remain below. Why don't they walk? They don't have forces. But it's called legs and not hands. This force that would clothe, called the will to bestow, was mixed in one another. Meaning, the light is the bestower, and the reflected light also bestows. So it's not called that there's a disparity of form in the vessel. But afterwards, there was a striking in inner and surrounding light that refined the screen and couldn't aim in order to bestow upon that light. So the light departs, and that force remains. So it's apparent that it's coarseness. And before it wasn't called coarseness. Why? That force was an equivalence of form. So we should adhere to two things here. The legs walk. So I say that the legs remain below. They couldn't walk. So I call it in a different name. That force of posterior that rejects and directs, that's called reflected light. But now it doesn't have any forces. If it did have forces, it would walk. It would clothe the light. The light would not depart from that phase itself. So what does it mean that reflected light remained below? You understand? Now it came and said, after the screen, the rejecting force could not be used with any coarseness. That means that it's refined, meaning it can't use anything. That's called that it rises above. So what does it want? To ask for the rejecting force. We find that this force rose up with the records that remained in it and demands, since above there is the force of the screen. So what does it give him? Only the force of the screen. That's the only thing lacking. It's not lacking lights. Only a force that can intend in order to bestow. So it ascends upward. What does it give it? A rejecting force. The force of the screen. So it has a screen, and then we can discern that screen is called the screen of Tabu. There are two discernments. One, now it's apparent that he was receiving. Only it ascended upward because it couldn't receive now. When the coupling in the Rosh on phase 3 of coarseness called Ab awakens, which is the screen on the tabur, the screen of the guf, so it descends to the guf. But we can discern something else, that the screen of the tabur ascends to the Rosh, then it is incorporated in the coarseness in the Rosh, from below upward, that it on its own can afterwards extend light and a coupling by striking, and this we discern now as a new phase. And we see that it's called Parzuf Ab. When we go into details, we could get confused. Because first he calls it inner Ab, and now when there's a new coupling, while it descends to the guf, that's called the external Ab. So don't get confused. Why to get confused? Because he's speaking differently now. Now when he's speaking about the empty vessels that were in Galgalta, they go to Ab. So then you won't get confused. Once I say this way, once I say that way, but it's the same discernment.
I want to say there could be two discernments here. If we look at every new form, any form, new phase, we can say that we have Parzuf Galgalta that was filled prior to the external Ab emerging. And then we can talk of the external Ab because after it emerged, it was included in them as well. It takes also the vessels of Parzuf Galgalta as well. But he doesn't say, I don't want to say. He doesn't give an interpretation about that here, so I don't want to add. I'm just saying that's how it should have been, because it could be that that's how it is, but he doesn't speak of that. He doesn't speak in too many details here, therefore this is something we should respond to. You find that the vessels were arranged from the time they were made one above the other. Where was this? In Parzuf Galgalta. Malchut first, Zeranpin atop her, Bina atop him, up to the vessel Keter above all of them, which emerged by the refinement of, meaning like the second expansion through refinement. Thus, when the lights expanded and emerged from the coupling of level of Keter, Chochmah, called 4 phases, 4 of clothing and 4 of coarseness, where all those 10 Sefirot were on an equal level close to Keter. 4 of clothing is only Vak. The stage of 3 is Vak of Chochmah, and here it's called Daled, close to Keter. They have found who? Parzuf Ab, which emerged, the vessel of Keter, suited for them, standing ready for them. What we're learning about the order of the vessels, first, they were made ta'amim on phase 4, and then upon phase 3. In the end, the vessel of Keter was made in coarseness root level. If I speak according to the order of direct light, we can find that in the vessel of Keter, what else can it receive? Coarseness of root. What then? Let's not run. Then the light of Nefesh in the Kli of Malchut, of Kli of Keter, which is the only one in the Kli Keter. Meaning, seemingly, he is speaking from what Kli of Keter? The Kli of Keter of direct light that illuminates in the Partzuf Ta'amim, or the Kli of Keter which emerged after the refinement of coarseness root level. There, the Kli was made, meaning it sounds like all the Ta'amim depart. When we speak of Malchut, there was no Keter there. We learned that the only the light of Yechidah was in the Kli of Keter, Partzuf Ta'amim. Hence, here this clarification is missing, meaning here learning Keter, but he intends to Keter of direct light, where the Partzuf Ta'amim emerge. And he combines it all at once. If so, it means that the Rav says, although we say that each time a degree departs, but to see that later comes a light in this Kli, even though it's a smaller degree, nevertheless, it's still considered the Kli is not considered a Kli because it still is with light in it. But here he's combining the Keter of direct light. This Kli was departed in the end by there being coarseness root there. It turns out I'm not speaking of coarseness root in this Kli. I'm just speaking by joining the Keter of Ta'amim, because there was the light of Yechidah. And only at the end she received a smaller light, the light of Malchut. Hence now when the light comes, then it thinks again that it comes to Keter of direct light, precisely like it was in Partzuf Galgalta. We also learned earlier where when it comes, every Kli, it comes out to Nefesh. Everyone comes out on the level of Nefesh. What did we learn? That they all came to the Kli of Keter, if you remember, at the end of Malchut. Turns out like this is the same thing. There's no scrutiny about this here. What is the meaning that they came to the Kli of Keter? If it's a Kli of Keter, upon the screen of coarseness root, how can it receive in coarseness of phase 3? And what is it unique about? If I'm speaking of Kli Keter, which Kli Keter? Of coarseness phase 4, I understand. There the Keter had phase 4 of coarseness. Here I have the Keter, and it's phase 4 of clothing. Which Keter is he speaking of? The Keter of the Partzuf Ta'amim, Keter of direct light. We say a Kli was made. Since now it remains there in the coarseness root, and that too departed. If so, from which Keter do we need to speak? From Keter of direct light. Otherwise, how can a Kli of phase root receive light of Chokhmah, light of Keter, and then the coarser one will receive a greater degree? How is that possible? While not matei in Keter, meaning when phase 4 of the male of Keter was refined, as well as phase 3 of the Nukva of Keter, then the level of Keter of the male and the level of Chokhmah of the Nukva departed. It follows that all those 10 Sefirot of male and female lost the level of Keter in them that they had as far as phase 4 of clothing, and the 10 Sefirot of the male were diminished into the level of Chokhmah, and the 10 Sefirot of female were diminished into the level of Binah. That level emerged now after this is no longer attributed to Keter at all, but to the vessel of Chokhmah. Therefore, the Keter bestowed them to the vessel of Chokhmah, as the Ari says. What's written here? This is also difficult. Look. Here it means that Keter was refined from 4.3 to 3.2. By this, it lost the level of Keter and was diminished in the level of Chokhmah. Hence, that level is no longer attributed to Keter at all. There's no Keter there, but to the vessel of Chokhmah. Therefore, the Keter bestows them to the vessel of Chokhmah, as the Ari says. What's the question here? When we learn it superficially, it sounds as if there were 9 lights there. Let's say 10 lights, and they were refined. So Keter gives these lights to the Sfira Chokhmah. But when we learn that Keter intends, means the level Keter, and Parzuf Ta'amim that was refined, what remains there? Only the screen and coarseness. If so, the question is, what did it give? Either we learn about the screen and coarseness that remains and gave the vessel of Chokhmah, and the vessel of Chokhmah extended, or not. Keter extended this light, and since it was not for its phase, after extending it, he gave it to Chokhmah. And this is it's not written here. Did you understand? It is easier according to the order that he's teaching, he's learning. I should say that after 4.3 was refined, did it extend who? The one that remained. 3.2 extended 3.2. And since this is already considered Chokhmah, not Keter, a new form, this is the interpretation that was given to Chokhmah, where now there's a new phase. So I'm not saying that Keter extends and gives the light. Only what am I saying? That it gives the coarseness, and Chokhmah extended it. He asks like this. If I say Keter extended, Keter already had this. And why do I later say that the reflected light gives the kli that has a reshimo, the record of Keter? After all, it had light. This is a question. If I will learn this way, then I will say I'm learning that Keter extended a new form. The previous form remains, and the new form. The new form, a new phase. So I say that after there's a new form, which is this new phase, 3.2, then it illuminates to 4.3. These are two things. We'll go onwards.
נעבור לחלק הבא של השיעור.